Hi, my name's Ed McKinnon and I'm library faculty in Arizona.
Hi, I'm Ken Mayers, and I'm adjunct faculty at St. Francis College in Brooklyn.
And we both volunteer for Amnesty International USA and their Banned Book Week programming. And today I'm going to take a few moments to read from a scholar who's an ethnographer in China, a Uyghur ethnographer. And I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs from a chapter out of a book called The Music of Central Asia. This is an academic publication available in the United States. And many of her scholarly articles are available in the United States. But Rahile Dawat found herself on the wrong side of Chinese enforcement against the Uyghurs, and she is facing a life sentence for the work that she does to lift up Uyghur culture. The chapter is called Datsun Performance Amongst the Uyghurs, and Datsun is a type of musical form. And I do have to put on my glasses. And you'll see the type of writing that she does. The interweaving of prose and poetry in Datsuns is complex and varied. The vast majority of Uyghur Datsuns contain both prose and poetry. The most salient way to distinguish the two is that prose is spoken while poetry is sung. The setting of many epics are described in a mixture of poetry and prose, while the main narrative action along the inner feelings of the characters is almost invariably sung in a poetic language. The Datsuns are constructed entirely of poetry and entirely of prose, although these are rare. Some of the older Dastanajis have told us about the existence of a separate prose and poetry versions of one of the same Datsun, though no such parallel versions have been documented by scholars. And it goes on a little bit, and then they have a recording that you can watch online, and it says the longer excerpt is particularly interesting because of the rhythmic and melodic material that are more varied than in the previous excerpt. And it goes on, like an academic publication might do, as it describes the musicology of a form of cultural expression in Central Asia. And one of the things as an Amnesty International advocate who's celebrated banned books with ALA and Amnesty International for the past 20 years is learning the stories of people around the world who have become imprisoned because of what they publish. And every year when I learn these stories, I learn more about the world, and I feel an obligation to lift up the voices of those who are being silenced.
Thanks, Ed. So I'm very happy to be reading my excerpt, and I just want to emphasize that Amnesty works in events like Banned Books in order to collaborate with all of the groups in the world that we can, including PEN, of course. And it's important that all of our groups be able to work together and, hopefully have some change with this issue. So my work as a volunteer focuses on the Middle East and North Africa. And so this is a book that's based on events that occurred in Saudi Arabia. And it's Lujain Dreams of Sunflowers. And it's a story that was written by Lina Al-Haflul about her sister Lujain Al-Haflul. So it's based on some true stories, although it's been transformed into a magical story. Every morning when Lujain woke up, she squeezed her eyes shut and remembered what she had dreamed the night before. Lujain always dreamed of two things. She dreamed she could fly, and she dreamed she would fly to a place her Baba described as the carpet of 1,000,000 sunflowers. But because Lujain was a girl, she was not allowed to fly. On school days, Lujain walked to school with her brothers and sisters. She stopped to take pictures with her camera of any color she saw, besides the gray of cement and the beige of sand. One day, Lujain's father said, "Lulu, you will learn to fly." What wonderful news! At school, Lujain told her friends that she too would fly someday, but they called her silly and laughed at her. After that day, Lujine always went out just before sunrise to fly with her Baba. We're going to be flying a long way today, her father said. The house was quiet as Lujine and her Baba slipped into the garden to put on their wings. As they rose higher and higher, Lujine looked all around her. The stars were still visible in the dark blue sky, with a tiny line of orange on the horizon. So maybe you wonder what will happen next. But you can read this book. You can find out what can happen next. And it's a magical story.